Ted Bundy, the charming monster. Born in 1946 in Burlington, Vermont, Theodore Robert Bundy grew up believing his mother was his sister. His grandparents raised him to hide the shame of his illegitimate birth. This early deception shaped his entire life. Ted was a good-looking, articulate young man who seemed destined for success. He attended the University of Washington and studied psychology, doing well in his classes. While his exact IQ was never officially recorded, experts estimate it was likely in the low 120s, above average but not genius level. He was charming, polite, and knew exactly what to say to make people trust him. He worked at a suicide prevention hotline and volunteered for political campaigns. People saw him as helpful and kind. But Ted was living a double life. Between 1974 and 1978, he killed at least 30 young women, though the real number might be much higher. He would pretend to be injured, wearing a fake cast on his arm or leg, asking women for help carrying books to his car. Once they were close, he'd attack. His intelligence helped him avoid capture for years. He studied police procedures and crime scene investigation. What finally brought him down was a routine traffic stop in 1975. A police officer in Utah pulled him over and found burglary tools in his car. He escaped from jail twice, but his overconfidence became his weakness. He chose to represent himself in court, unable to resist showing off how smart he was, though his law school performance had actually been poor. Forensic evidence eventually sealed his case. Bite marks on one victim matched his teeth perfectly. He was convicted and sentenced to death. Before his execution in 1989, he confessed to 30 murders. Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer. Born in 1948 in Burbank, California, Edmund Emil Kemper III had a troubled childhood from the start. He was a huge child, growing to 6 feet 10 inches tall and weighing over 300 pounds. His mother was cruel and abusive, constantly belittling him. She made him sleep in the basement because she feared he would harm his sisters. At age 15, he killed both his grandparents. He shot his grandmother, then killed his grandfather when he came home. When police asked why, he said he just wanted to see what it felt like. He was sent to a psychiatric hospital where doctors tested his IQ at 136, well into the gifted range. He studied the doctors, learned what they wanted to hear, and manipulated them into releasing him at age 21. Once free, he befriended local police officers. He hung out at a bar they frequented, bought them drinks, and talked about police work. They called him Big Ed. Between 1972 and 1973, he killed 8 people, including 6 college students. He picked up young women hitchhiking near the University of California, Santa Cruz. He appeared friendly and harmless with police stickers on his car. His intelligence showed in his planning. He removed the light in his car trunk so victims couldn't signal for help. What made Kemper different was his self-awareness. He understood he was deeply disturbed and could analyze his own psychology like a textbook case. In 1973, he killed his mother, then her best friend. After these murders, he felt his purpose was complete. He called police and turned himself in, confessing everything in detail, describing his crimes clinically like a scientist discussing an experiment. Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer. Born in 1943 in San Antonio, Texas, Rodney James Alcala was a photographer with genuine artistic talent who studied film under Roman Polanski at New York University. He was good-looking and charming. In 1978, while wanted for murder, he appeared on the television show The Dating Game and won. The woman who chose him refused to go on the date because she found him creepy. That instinct probably saved her life. Alcala was officially convicted of 8 murders in California and linked to at least 2 more in New York, bringing his confirmed total to at least 10. However, investigators believe the number could be over 100 based on hundreds of photographs found in his possession. He used his photography as a lure, approaching women and children, offering to take their pictures for his portfolio. He seemed professional and trustworthy, carrying professional camera equipment and showing them a portfolio of beautiful photographs. Many agreed to pose for him. He would kill victims, wait for police heat to die down, then kill again. He moved between states to avoid detection and changed his appearance frequently. His downfall came from evidence he couldn't destroy. In 1979, he killed a 12-year-old girl named Robin Samso. Witnesses saw her talking to a stranger with a camera near the beach. Police created a sketch, and Alcala's parole officer recognized him. When police searched his storage locker, they found hundreds of photographs of women and children, many in poses suggesting they were unconscious or dead. He represented himself in court, cross-examining witnesses. He was convicted in 1980, but the verdict was overturned on a technicality. He was tried again in 1986 and convicted again. That verdict was also overturned. Finally, in 2010, DNA evidence definitively linked him to multiple murders. He died in prison in 2021 at age 77, never showing remorse. Dennis Rader, BTK killer. Born in 1945 in Pittsburgh, Kansas, Dennis Lynn Rader became known for his methodical planning despite having no verified genius-level intelligence. His letters to police were often filled with poor grammar and spelling errors, suggesting his intellect was likely average. What made him notable was his obsessive attention to detail and planning. He called himself BTK, which stood for Bind, Torture, Kill. Between 1974 and 1991, he killed 10 people in Wichita, Kansas. He lived a completely normal life. He was married with 2 children, worked as a compliance officer enforcing city regulations, was president of his church council, and was a Cub Scout leader. His neighbors described him as helpful and friendly. Nobody suspected him. He would stalk victims for weeks, learning their routines, then break into their homes and wait for them. He brought a kit with rope, tape, and weapons, everything organized and prepared. After each murder, he took items from victims as souvenirs and kept detailed records in a hidden space in his home. For years, police had no leads. He simply stopped killing in 1991, going dormant for over a decade. His fatal mistake was his ego. In 2004, after 13 years of silence, he started communicating with police again. He sent letters to newspapers and television stations because he wanted attention. He asked police if they could trace a floppy disk. A detective lied and said no. Rader trusted this answer and sent a floppy disk to a television station. Investigators recovered deleted files containing metadata showing the document was last modified by someone named Dennis at Christ Lutheran Church. A simple internet search revealed Dennis Rader was president of the church council. Police obtained a DNA sample from his daughter's medical records that matched DNA from crime scenes. He was arrested in 2005 and sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences. Andrew Cunanan, the Versace killer. Born in 1969 in National City, California, Andrew Philip Cunanan was described by family and friends as extremely intelligent, though no verified IQ test was ever administered. He was the youngest of 4 children and his father's favorite. His father spoiled him, telling him he was special and deserving of the best things in life. He attended an elite private school on scholarship. He was charming, well-read, and could talk knowledgeably about art, literature, and history. He spoke multiple languages. People described him as magnetic. But after his father abandoned the family following a financial scandal, something broke inside Andrew. He became obsessed with wealth and status, befriending rich, older men and living off their money. He lied constantly, creating elaborate false stories about his background. In 1997, he went on a killing spree that lasted 3 months. He killed 5 people, including fashion designer Gianni Versace. His first victims were people he knew, then he began killing strangers to steal their vehicles. He evaded a massive manhunt by changing his appearance, using false names, and moving between cities. His murder of Gianni Versace on July 15, 1997, made him one of the most wanted men in America. The FBI put him on their 10 most wanted list. His face was on every news channel. Despite this attention, he managed to hide in Miami Beach for 8 days, staying in a houseboat just miles from where he killed Versace. When police surrounded the houseboat, Cunanan shot himself. He was 27 years old. Investigators never fully understood his motives. He left no note, no explanation. Some experts believe his killings were driven by rage over his declining status. Others think he wanted to become famous, and killing Versace guaranteed that. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee cannibal. Born in 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer had a tested IQ of 121 according to forensic reports from his trial, placing him in the above-average range. He grew up in a middle-class family. His father was a chemist. As a child, Jeffrey seemed normal at first, but he became increasingly withdrawn. He developed a fascination with dead animals, collecting roadkill and dissecting them in a shed behind his house. His parents were going through a bitter divorce and didn't notice the warning signs. By his teenage years, he was drinking heavily. He committed his first murder at age 18, right after high school graduation. Between 1978 and 1991, he killed 17 young men and boys. He would approach men at gay bars or malls. He was polite and charming, offering them money to pose for photographs or come back to his apartment for drinks. Once they were in his apartment, he would drug them. His methods became increasingly disturbing over time. He kept detailed records and photographs of his crimes. His capture came by chance in July 1991. A man named Tracy Edwards escaped from Dahmer's apartment, with handcuffs still hanging from his wrist. He flagged down police officers and led them back to the apartment. When officers entered, they found photographs of dismembered bodies and human remains in the refrigerator and freezer. They found a barrel containing decomposing bodies. During interrogation, Dahmer confessed immediately. He was calm and detailed in his descriptions, showing no emotion as he explained what he had done. While his intelligence was above average, he showed no understanding of normal human emotion. He was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms. In 1994, he was killed in prison by another inmate, John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown. Born in 1942 in Chicago, Illinois, John Wayne Gacy had a tested IQ of 129 according to his psychiatric evaluations, placing him in the above average to superior range. He grew up with an abusive, alcoholic father who constantly criticized him and called him stupid. Despite this, Gacy became a successful businessman. He managed 3 Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants and was active in his community. He joined the local Democratic Party organization and even met First Lady Rosalind Carter. He performed as Pogo the Clown at children's hospitals and charity events. He was married twice and had 2 children. His neighbors saw him as friendly and helpful. He would host large summer parties with hundreds of guests. Nobody suspected the horror happening in his home. Between 1972 and 1978, he killed at least 33 young men and boys. Most victims were teenage boys he lured with promises of construction work. He owned a construction company and would offer them jobs. Once at his house, he would trick them into being handcuffed, claiming he wanted to show them a magic trick. Then he would assault and kill them. He buried 26 bodies in the crawl space under his house. He disposed of others in a nearby river. His intelligence showed in how he manipulated people. He understood human psychology and knew exactly what to say to gain trust. His downfall came in 1978 when a 15-year-old boy disappeared after telling his mother he was going to talk to a contractor about a job. Police investigated Gacy and noticed a terrible smell coming from his house. He claimed it was sewage problems, but when they searched his home, they found the bodies. Gacy was arrested, tried, and convicted. He was executed by lethal injection in 1994. Even facing death, he never showed genuine remorse, claiming he was a victim of circumstance. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. Born in 1960 in El Paso, Texas, Richard Ramirez had a tested IQ in the mid-90s, around 94 to 97, which placed him in the average range, not below average as sometimes reported. Richard had a traumatic childhood. His father was abusive and beat him regularly. His cousin Miguel, a Vietnam War veteran, showed him graphic photos from the war and taught him military killing techniques. When Richard was 13, he witnessed Miguel shoot and kill his wife during an argument. This exposure to violence at a young age warped his development. By his teens, Richard was using drugs heavily and committing burglaries. He moved to California in his early 20s. Between 1984 and 1985, he terrorized Los Angeles and San Francisco. He killed at least 14 people and assaulted many others. He would break into homes at night, attacking people while they slept. His victims ranged from children to elderly people. He showed no pattern in victim selection, which made him harder to catch. He used different weapons, sometimes guns, sometimes knives, sometimes his hands. His crimes were brutal and sadistic. He carved pentagrams into victims and forced some to swear allegiance to Satan. He evaded capture for over a year through sheer unpredictability and willingness to travel between cities. His capture came by accident. His face was published in newspapers after a survivor identified him. He was spotted in an East Los Angeles neighborhood trying to steal a car. Residents recognized him and chased him, beating him until police arrived. During his trial, he showed no remorse. He flashed satanic symbols and laughed at victims' families. He was convicted and sentenced to death. He died of natural causes in 2013 while still on death row. Aileen Wuornos, America's first female serial killer. Born in 1956 in Rochester, Michigan, Aileen Carol Wuornos had an IQ of 81, below average. But her case is crucial because it shows that serial killing isn't limited to highly intelligent men. She had one of the most tragic childhoods imaginable. Her father was a convicted child molester who hanged himself in prison. Her mother abandoned her when she was 4. Her grandparents raised her, but her grandfather was abusive. She was pregnant at 14 and gave the baby up for adoption. By 15, she was living on the streets, surviving through prostitution. She never had a chance at a normal life. Between 1989 and 1990, she killed 7 men in Florida. She claimed all 7 were clients who tried to rape or assault her, and she killed them in self-defense. Investigators believe some killings might have been self-defense, but others were clearly robbery and murder. She would hitchhike along highways, offer sex for money, then shoot the men and steal their cars and belongings. She was caught after police found one of her victims' cars abandoned. Witnesses had seen her and a female companion in the vehicle. Police released composite sketches and multiple people called in identifying Wuornos. She was arrested in 1991. Her lover at the time cooperated with police and recorded phone conversations where Wuornos confessed. During her trial, her defense argued she suffered from borderline personality disorder and was a victim of lifelong abuse. The prosecution argued she was a cold-blooded killer who murdered for money. She was convicted and sentenced to death. While on death row, her mental state deteriorated. She gave bizarre interviews claiming prison staff were trying to kill her with radio waves and mind control. She fired her lawyers and demanded her execution be carried out. She was executed in 2002. Her case sparked debates about abuse, mental illness, and the death penalty. Harold Shipman, Dr. Death. Born in 1946 in Nottingham, England, Harold Frederick Shipman was highly intelligent, though specific IQ scores were never publicly released. He was a medical doctor, one of the most trusted professions in society. He grew up watching his mother die slowly from lung cancer. Doctors would visit and give her morphine injections that seemed to make her peaceful and pain-free. This left a lasting impression on young Harold. He excelled in school and was accepted into medical school. He became a general practitioner and was well respected in his community. Patients loved him. He seemed caring and attentive. He made house calls, which was rare for doctors. Elderly patients especially trusted him. But between 1975 and 1998, Harold Shipman killed at least 215 patients, though the real number may be over 250. This makes him one of the most prolific serial killers in history. He would visit elderly patients at their homes and inject them with lethal doses of morphine or other drugs. He would then falsify medical records to make their deaths appear natural. His medical knowledge allowed him to manipulate the system perfectly. He knew exactly how to forge documents and what to write to avoid suspicion. He understood the medical system inside and out. His downfall came when he got greedy. He forged the will of one of his victims, making himself a beneficiary. The victim's daughter became suspicious and contacted police. Investigators began looking into other deaths among his patients. They discovered an unusual pattern. Far more of Shipman's elderly patients were dying compared to other doctors in the area. They exhumed bodies and found lethal levels of morphine. He was arrested in 1998, tried and convicted of 15 murders, though he was suspected of hundreds more. He was sentenced to life in prison. In 2004, he hanged himself in his cell. He never confessed or explained his motives. David Berkowitz, son of Sam. Born in 1953 in Brooklyn, New York, David Richard Berkowitz had an IQ of 118 above average. He was adopted as an infant after his birth mother gave him up. He grew up feeling different and out of place. He was an intelligent child but struggled socially. His adoptive mother died when he was 14, which devastated him. He became increasingly isolated and angry. He joined the army and became an excellent marksman. After his discharge, he returned to New York and lived alone in a small apartment. Between July 1976 and July 1977, he terrorized New York City. He killed 6 people and wounded 7 others. He targeted young women, often shooting them while they sat in parked cars with boyfriends. His attacks seemed random, creating widespread panic. People were afraid to go out at night. He sent taunting letters to police and newspapers, signing them, "Son of Sam." In the letters, he claimed a demon dog belonging to his neighbor Sam commanded him to kill. He wrote in a distinctive style that showed his intelligence. He mocked police and promised more attacks. His intelligence showed in how he selected locations. He studied neighborhoods, planned escape routes, and struck quickly before disappearing. But his downfall came from a parking ticket. On the night of his final attack, he parked illegally near the crime scene. A witness saw him and remembered the car. Police traced the parking ticket to David Berkowitz. When they arrested him in August 1977, he confessed immediately. He seemed relieved to be caught. He later admitted the demon dog story was fabricated. He killed because he hated women and wanted to create fear. He was sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences. In prison, he became a born-again Christian and expressed remorse for his crimes. He remains in prison today and has repeatedly stated he should never be released. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. Born in 1949 in Salt Lake City, Utah, Gary Leon Ridgway had an IQ of only 82, well below average. This makes his case remarkable because he evaded capture for nearly 20 years despite limited intelligence. What he lacked in IQ, he made up for in cunning and an obsessive attention to avoiding detection. He grew up in a troubled home with a dominating mother. He was dyslexic and struggled in school. Other children teased him for being slow. He wet the bed until his teens, which humiliated him. He developed an intense hatred for his mother, but also a strange dependence on her. He joined the Navy after high school and married 3 times. He held a steady job painting trucks. To everyone who knew him, he seemed like a normal, somewhat simple man. Between 1982 and 1998, he killed at least 49 women, though he confessed to as many as 71. He holds the record for the most confirmed victims of any serial killer in United States history. He targeted prostitutes and runaways, women he believed society wouldn't miss. He would pick them up, strangle them, and dump their bodies in wooded areas around the Green River in Washington state. Despite his low IQ, he developed an effective system. He understood that targeting marginalized women meant less police attention. He carefully disposed of bodies in remote locations. He returned to crime scenes to move bodies if he thought they might be discovered. He even attended victims' funerals to watch police and families. He placed fake evidence to mislead investigators. For years, police had no solid leads. The case went cold, but advances in DNA technology finally caught him. In 2001, DNA from victims matched a sample Ridgway had given years earlier. He was arrested and eventually confessed to avoid the death penalty. In exchange for revealing body locations, he received life in prison without parole. During his confession, he spoke about his crimes with disturbing calmness, showing no emotion or remorse.